In this walkthrough, I'm going to show you step by step how I actually find properties for our company, JRED Properties. And if you don't know, I am an Atlanta resident, yet we invest in Cleveland and it's worked out great for us. So I would love to actually show you firsthand so you can see the different price points because Cleveland is an amazing market, especially if you know certain neighborhoods on how you can actually develop the right land of properties to get the right cash flow. So let's just dive in. So I have Zillow up. Again, nothing special on purchasing properties on retail for retail. I have it up here. And what I want to do first, though, actually, before I go to Zillow, being that I know the market well, I never take that for granted. I always look at the data. So I'm going to assume as if I'm not privy to this data. So there's a few resources I would suggest you go to. And the first one would be to research HUD to see what fair market rent is in your local area. So I just simply research HUD fair market rent. The way the process is going to look, it's going to look like this. Let me back out. So this is the home screen. And if you are in Ohio like me, you would go ahead, select your state, and then you will go down and select your county and you hit the next screen and there you go. It will show you that way. Then I never tried the statewide, so let's go ahead and try that. So this is Ohio. So if you were interested in just the entire state of Ohio, you can come and look at this screen for a snapshot to say, okay, where is it a premium at? And just at a quick glance, it looked like it's more of a premium in the Columbus market, Cincinnati, Union City. They're all, and also Akron for a two-bedroom, for example, they're all over $1,000. So just a slight premium in different markets. But again, it all depends on what the cost of the property is. So we'll look at that in a moment. So backing out from that, let's go to the market of choice. So again, Cleveland is in Cuyahoga County. I hope I say it right. And right here, just to refresh myself on what market rents might be at the moment. For fiscal year 2023, efficiency 719, 820 for a one bedroom, 998 for two bedroom, 1296 for a three bedroom, and a 1369 for a four bedroom. Now, this site right here again is a starting point, and this is also based off of the greater Cleveland area. I currently don't actually have any properties in Cleveland per se. I actually invest in the suburbs of Cleveland on the east side. So this will give you a picture of, hey, if you're looking for a property in the Cleveland zip code, this will be a greater market for you. So to get more granular with it, I actually go directly to the Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority, which is a fancy way of saying the Section 8 for that local area. And what I like about their site is that when you go to this webpage, you can actually click on the zip codes. So again, the places where I invest at in Cleveland, they're not far from downtown Cleveland areas or anything like that, but they do have a premium when you're outside of the greater Cleveland area because the taxes are higher. So the taxes are higher, which incurs a lot of times more homeowners and more tax revenue. You might have a better school district, might have better streets, a lot of other things that come with it. So you can't look at the greater Cleveland standard rate. You have to actually look at the individual zip codes. So an example of a zip code that I currently invest in is a city called Garfield Heights, and that's 44125. So as you can see here, the rent for Garfield Heights for a three bedroom is 1390. Okay. So it went from the primary amount, which was 1296, to 1390. So it bumped up about $100 depending on where you actually invest at. Also have property in 44122. And you can see it's even a bigger premium because this is in Shaker Heights, which is even more desirable location. So what I always like to do is say, hey, let me take a look at what rents are going for at this given time because it does change, right? So you want to make sure you understand that because that's really key. So once you have an understanding of what rents are going for in the market, let's just say we had our eyes on a 3 bedroom single family, as that's really to me, I feel like the sweet spot is a 3 bedroom single family because the rent from 3 to 4 bedroom is not really significant. So for me, I'd rather get a nice size 3 bedroom home that is ideal for your typical family, and at the same time, you get the best ROI because you're not spending as much on the square footage for the additional bedroom, but yet you get comparable rent. So for the sake for this walkthrough, let's just say we're looking for a 3 bedroom single family home in 44125. Let's just say that. So as you can see here, the fair market rent right now is 1390 for that property, for that type of property. And based off this one, which is more based off the Cleveland area, this is saying 1290 roughly. So you can feel confident to say you can probably get between $1,300 and $1,400 for 3 bedroom home in that area. All right. So now we need to try to find a home that fits that criteria. So we're going to use 44125. Again, this is Garfield Heights. And the thing about Cleveland and a lot of areas, so I think a lot of people can relate to this. Unfortunately, it's not like a clear line to say, okay, every part of a zip code is great. And 44125, it might 44125, it might be some areas that might be a little bit shaky. So you have to really know the area to get a better understanding. And there is a tool out there. I don't want to age the video because who knows if it'll be available by then. But if I'll show you that tool in a moment. But essentially, if you're neighboring like the borderline up here to the Cleveland area, which would be like this northeast area, this is where it might be the shakiest. But as you get more central and definitely as you get more south, you are, or southeast, you're definitely more in the safer zone. Let's just say that. And again, this comes from market research. This comes from just having family there. So we do have a competitive advantage to know the little intricate details about it. So let's start really breaking this down. So the first thing we want to do is filter it to just homes. We want to filter it to show me just 3 bedrooms with 1 bath. We're going to leave price there for a moment. Let's see. By agent. We also want to look at square feet because again, it's a rental home. And if it has a lot of square feet anyway, it's probably something wrong with it. So I would say really at the most 2,000 square feet and at the minimum 1,250. So 1,250, like 1,200 and up for a 3 bedroom is pretty solid up there. When you start seeing something, hey, they're selling 3,000 square feet for dirt cheap, it's because it needs a lot of work. And we're not trying to do a lot of work right now. All right, so it's between 1,250 square feet to 2,000 square feet. Let's see. Let's just go ahead and hit apply and see what comes up. So far, we have 13 results. All right, let's go ahead and do what I always like to do and actually hit newest because I don't want the newest. I want the property that's been sitting on the market that people have been saying, yeah, because that's the ones that you can go to and you can actually potentially have a motivated seller. So I like starting with the ugly properties first. We've learned over the years that when it look pretty, unless it's a brand new construction, when it look pretty, is what they say, putting the lipstick on a pig. It's been true many times. So I'd rather get the home that's really structurally sound, that's in need of some TLC with some paint, some minor plumbing upgrades. I'm not even afraid to do electrical upgrades, but I really at this point don't like the pretty home. Let me do the work. I have my guy that I trust that can do it and get it to where I want it to be. All right. So this home right here for 139,000, it's been on the market 173 days. I can tell you now, going back to what we've seen though, we've seen that on the low end, $1,300 a month, and on the high end, $1,400 a month. So what we can do is say, all right, to be safe, we'll go with the $1,300, right? And my rule is to get to make my mortgage. So what I do, I take the rent and I multiply that by zero point 0.6. So 60% of the rent should be the actual mortgage amount. So what I'm saying in my head is, okay, on the low end, I should be able to get $1,300, right? So I want my mortgage to be no more than $780 for a property right now. The gross profit would be the $1,300 minus 780. That is a gross profit of $520. That doesn't mean you're going to get $520 every month, but what it's saying is that before, well, after your debt is serviced, the $520 is there, and that could mean you could have one repair that be $520. Just to be honest with you, it could even be more than that. But what you're hoping to do is get the property into a good state to where repairs are minimal and it happens pretty much infrequently. But other things such as utilities, landscaping, those type of costs might eat up your gross profit. So this is another reason why I love single family, because a property like this, I would pretty much put a tenant in there and say, hey, this is your house. If it's nothing major, well, it's no reason for us to really get involved. What I always like to do is make sure that the gutters are clean, because again, this is still your property, but that's their home. But they're responsible for normal landscaping, they're responsible for utilities, they're responsible for pest control, things of that nature. What we need to find is say, hey, are there any properties right now for $780 or less for a mortgage? And that's pretty much how you should go about finding a property right now. So, being that mortgages are pretty much so sensitive on an interest rate, let's go ahead and just pull up a mortgage calculator. So at the time of this video, but I just refreshed Google, it looks like the average interest rate right now is 7.7%. And hey, we had a great time with really low interest rates. So now we're in 7.7%, just looks atrocious. But this is what it is currently. But again, this is for someone buying their own personal home. So if you're looking for an actual investment property, you need to go ahead and tack on another percentage point, another 100 basis points to this loan. So if it's coming up at 7.73, we're going to say 8.73. All right. So then let's break it down like this. All right. Yeah, this section might be better where it's including taxes and fees. So what we need to figure out here is what we can actually afford. No, let's use this one. So this is just, we pretty much just have to figure this calculator to get a ballpark of what we need. So let's just say a home price was $100,000. Anytime you're purchasing a single family property, you have to put down 20%. So I'm happy that it defaulted to 20% here. That's hands down what it will be. If it's a multifamily property, which is 2 units to 4 units, it's going to be 25% that you have to put down. I have not seen, even with excellent credit, I have not seen anything different than that. And considering this stage of housing is changing, I can't see that that number will change. So I think 20% for single family is pretty strong and locked in, and 25% for multifamily is locked in. So if a home is $100,000, you put 20,000 down with an 8.73 interest rate. I don't think this matters, but let's go ahead and just do it. Let's say Ohio, we'll use the average score. We wouldn't have PMI. We're not looking at homes with homeowners association attached to it. And we can actually update this as well once we look on Zillow and find a property. But as of right now, just keep it where it's at. So they're saying that based off the default values here for taxes and insurance, $100,000 home would be a mortgage roughly $761. So now going back to what I said, we want to be under 780. This would actually hit the mark. The problem is though, I think those property taxes is really is what's going to hurt us, right? So let's just go back to the list here. And since we already know that even with property taxes being pretty conservative, that 100,000 puts us at our mark, let's go ahead and just cap this off to a maximum price of $100,000. All right. Wow. All right. So that literally gave us one property. So they gave us one property to look at in this particular zip code. Now I have all the zip codes, but again, we can look at this forever. So this one property, 12804 Garland Avenue. The estimate is never really accurate. I don't go too much on that. 3 bedroom, 1 bath, 1,400 square feet. Let's take a look at some of the pictures here. It looks like the exterior siding needs some work, or it could just be pressure wash. Let's see. The floors look pretty nice. This would be a great rental for someone, especially if we can get the exterior cleaned up. Yeah, so nothing here. Yeah, nothing here would scare me off so far. Okay. So that's step one. Reading the description here. Interior is freshly painted to a neutral color. I appreciate all that. But again, you want 99,000 for this. It's been on the market 4 days. I personally like to look for houses that's been on the market for over 30 days because then that's when those markers come in where they're looking to drop the price. All right. But again, on the surface, nothing here is bad at all. So a few things you want to do to really break this property down. So the first thing I do is I go to this website called Rentometer. Now I have the pro account, I'm not advocating for this or anything like that, but essentially what it will do is give you a detailed report of that particular address, which is cool. So you put the address in there, you click on summary report, and you hit analyze. So again, it's giving you another data point. Remember, we found that on one site it said roughly 1290, and then on another site it said 1390. So now when you look at this, it's okay. This is saying that 1263 is the average rent for this particular address within the vicinity that is defined here. So within a search mile radius of 1.5 miles. So this is a pretty tight radius. And this will give you the average, the median, the 25th to the 75th percentile, and give you all the way to the highest percentile. So even on the very, very high end, a 3 bedroom is only commanding 1443. You might want to look at your mortgage amount and say, hey, maybe I shouldn't use 1350 as my guide. Maybe I should use the 1300 as my guide and bring down that mortgage payment even more. With this website, you're able to get a pro report, which is pretty cool because then you can actually say, okay, what are the properties that actually were rented? This video is being recorded June of 2023. So you can actually say, wow, that's as recent as May 2023. There's a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom home within 1 mile that rented for 1275. And it's not really looking too good because really within the last year, everything has been in that 1250 to 1275 range. So if I was really about to buy this property, as much as you might like it, I think you should go back and say, all right, let's go ahead and put 1250 times 0.6. And let's just say, okay, we need a mortgage under 750 to make this make sense for us. All right. So we've dropped our mortgage expectation down to 750, additional $30. All right, so now we're pretty comfortable on what we can get for rent. We know in this area what we can get for rent. So now, do we really like the house? All right. So the next thing I like to do is I like to go to Google Maps. I search the address, I click on Street View, and this is the house. This is it. All right. So this is the neighborhood. So I like to see what's across the street. So you can see people are taking care of their home. I got two nice trees here, so I'm sure that looks good in the summertime. It might be a disaster in the winter. So it's a nice tree lined street. This is the home right here. So let's zoom in. It looks like it's pretty much vacant. There's nobody in there. This tree, and I've learned that you want to make sure you address trees when you buy a house, because these are some big trees right here. So these limbs are hanging over the roof. So who knows what type of damage is already on the roof. This also can lead to rodents and bugs and things of that nature. So if I were to purchase this house off top, off rip, like I'm already going to account for trimming back these trees, which again, it's not cheap. But I do think it has some curb appeal once that's done. You can trim this, and it looks like this could be potentially hand over your neighbor's yard as well. So you would have to account for that. Looks like it's some sun damage here on the awning. I probably would take this whole awning off. It just look a little beat up. But again, this is the stuff right here that will scare off your average person. But realistically, this is just a replacement. You take the awning off, it looks like those gutters are in terrible shape. So you probably got to buy this house expecting to replace the roof, replace the gutters, take off the awning, secure this front steps, new siding, and potentially probably paint, because I wouldn't even want it white. But maybe you can get away with a no paint job and just replacing the siding and doing a good pressure wash for the moment. Okay. And then it has a garage back here. So you're probably going to have some landscaping, because you can see the lawn. Hey, got grass coming out the cracks. It's probably a mess back there. So you got to account for those type of things. But again, if you clean this up, it'll probably look just like this house right here. This is not a 5-star home or anything like that, but it's a decent looking house, something that, someone would be proud to live in. So you can use this as inspiration to get this home up to par to look like this, at least on the outside. And you can look at the shingles on this house. You can see this is a newer roof compared to this house. You can see the damage, especially on this side for sure. The damage is pretty rough. All right. What I like to do is you can go up and look at the street and kind of see at the neighbors. This is a nice community. I wouldn't have no problem renting this house, whether it's a cash customer, and definitely if it's a Section 8, they would jump on this super fast. What I like to do is I pay attention to the dates on the top left. So this is from April 2023. This video is being recorded in June of 2023. So this is very recent. So this is pretty encouraging to me, because I'm like, okay, I don't have to be there to see the property. I'm comfortable with the neighborhood to go ahead and pull the trigger. But what I like to do is click on this button here, this link, because it says see more dates. Whoa, it's a big jump though, unfortunately. A lot of times you might see like maybe a 3-year or 5-year. So April 2023 might be April of 2020 or 2019. So you can see the progression or the regression of a neighborhood. And I like to really see that, because I want to see if this is a community, something that where if I purchase and I have no intention of selling, that I would feel good handing this down to my children. So in this example, it goes back pretty much 10 years. So you click on September of 2014. As you can see, this tree is a beast. So I'm happy I clicked on this, because this tree is a beast. So this is September. So when September comes, when it fully blooms, and then when those leaves drop, I bet this is a beast. So I definitely would account for that if I purchase this house. But let's see how it looks. This is still 2014. As you can see, it was cleaned up then. The roof was in better shape. For 10 years, it really held up pretty good, to be honest with you. So I yeah, I'm still not in a position to feel like, hey, I wouldn't be interested in this home. So I've seen enough so far to say, oh yeah, okay, I'm cool, I'm listening. But remember, they want 99,000 for this house, so 100,000. We probably need to get this house closer to 90, but now let's also look at the taxes. So that information is going to be on Zillow as well. All right. So the taxes in 2021 was 2677. And considering that was 2 years ago, let's just go ahead and just say the taxes are $3,000. Right. So again, we had 1125 here. That's the thing about Cleveland and Ohio, the taxes are higher. The price point for the homes are much cheaper, but you do have to account for higher taxes, especially if you're going to a suburb. That's just part of the game. So $3,000 for taxes, and let's just say for home insurance, 315 is pretty light. Let's bump that up to, let's just say 1,000, just to be safe. All right. So as you can see, whew, our payment, even if you want to say 500, let's just say we went dirt cheap with the insurance. As you can see here, our payment, we need to get our payment $100 cheaper than what it is right now. And this is why interest rates are so killer, right? For people, for investors, and also for people who want to buy their home, because your purchasing power is diminished by the interest rates. But we're investors. We can't fall in love with a house. We have to make sure we get it at the right price. So let's see what 80,000 will look like. So 80,000 is at 795 a month. Let's see what 75 look like. 75 is close. 75 is close. Okay. And it might be within that range to say, okay, maybe we need to do that. But realistically, we probably need to get a house for about 73,000 or less. So this house is probably at this moment, because it's only been listed for 4 days, it's probably not going to be one that they're going to be willing to negotiate out the gate. But this would be one that I would save and I would keep an eye out on to buy. So now that we say, okay, 44125, they don't have what we need, let's go ahead and expand our search. I'm going to add a few more zip codes. 44137 is one that we invest in. That is Maple Heights. 44122. This is Shaker Heights. 44121. This is Cleveland Heights. And then 44128 is actually Lawrenceville Heights with a slice of Cleveland. So if you're watching this and you want to know where should I invest, Moses, again, I'm going to show you that resource, but I personally think the best sweet spot where you're going to get the best bang for your buck is going to be your east side suburbs that end in Heights, Cleveland Heights, Shaker Heights, University Heights, Garfield Heights. So anything that you see Heights, I think you're going to be pretty safe for the most part. There's a few little shaky parts, but at the same time, if you use that as your guide and then use some of the steps that we've already covered in this walkthrough, I think you'll be able to discover, okay, this is something I'll be comfortable with. So I added those 5 different zip codes, but now it's okay, let's not play around. We know what our maximum is. We can't do 100,000. Let's just go ahead and say 85,000 because we can leave room for negotiation, and anything under 85, let's take a look at. So let's honestly just sort it from lowest to highest. Some of these that are like super cheap, if it's that cheap, it's pretty much a disaster right now. Let's not even look at those. So let's just look at this one right here. This one is 44128, but it's not a Heights. So this is one that's actually Cleveland in 44128. So it hits our number. Let me click on it. $75,000. Let's click on, okay. Again, it's just trash. So far, it's just trash. It can be cleaned up. I'm not a contractor, but from my eye, I don't see anything that's atrocious here. And honestly, also, when you look at this is an attic with full staircase. So you can actually finish this attic to add more space to the home. So nothing is throwing me off here. So the fact that it's listed for 75,000, you probably they're not going to get 75,000. So again, what should we do at this point? Let's go ahead and pull it up on Google. Let's look at the street view. And I already see a problem. And this is something that you're going to experience with certain homes in Cleveland. This is why you have to use street view. I don't want a house next to empty lots. And it's not even just this is two lots that are empty right next to it, because then it's inviting different things. It's inviting dumping of trash. It's inviting animals. So and depending on if it's city owned or if it's owned by a private citizen, you're pretty much dependent on whether or not they're going to mow it and they're going to do a lot of things. That's not something I want to deal with. So this is probably why the home has sat, to be honest with you. And then right across the street is full of vacant lots. This is, yeah. So comparing the home that I showed the first time to this one, it's night and day. This would be a no. I wouldn't recommend this to any of you guys, especially being a long distance. If you're not local in Cleveland, you don't want to have to deal with this. There's too many variables that's outside of your control that you don't want to put yourself in a position where you have a beautiful home that you're taking care of, you got great tenants, but you have to worry about the other stuff that you don't have any control over. So let's go ahead and close that out. And pretty much, that's pretty much how you just keep chugging along. This one is for 76.5, 3 bedrooms. And again, this wood paneling is stuff that you can easily get painted and it'll look beautiful. So again, you got to be able to have an eye to look beyond the current state. Because again, ugly houses are the ones you want because that's where you have more negotiating power. The people that fall in love with it because they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, oh, I can just see myself living here. They're going to make an emotional purchase. But you, as an investor, you're coming in to buy so you can transform it to make it look how it needs to look to be a great rental property for you and your business. So again, nothing here scares me, and it would meet the criteria. So this is in Maple Heights for 76.5. And what I'm trying to do, and I'm doing this live, I haven't found these in advance, trying to find a property that potentially I would make an offer on. Street view for that same property, no vacant lots. You got the sky blue house right next to it. It is what it is. It looks like the driveway would need some work at some point. So that's some deferred maintenance that you would have to account for if you were to purchase this home. It doesn't have the greatest front view. You just got to account for that. The windows look a little weird to me. But again, this is a rented property. Someone would be ecstatic to have this home, especially being a great landlord that I know you'll be. It'll be well maintained and it'll cash flow perfect for you. So looking across the street, again, these are people, it's a tree-lined street. Yeah. Everyone has their trash out. It's trash day. Everybody's lawn looks manicured. Yeah. And this home is $76,000. $76,000. Okay. So there's one more thing that I'm not going to be able to show you on this walkthrough because you would have to really work with your real estate agent to get this information. So the one con of purchasing homes in the areas that I purchase homes in, the heights, because it's a con when you're on the front end, but once you have your home, it's not a con. It's something called the point of sale inspection. Point of sale is point of sale inspection essentially is to protect the integrity of, properties, really, and neighborhoods. So what happens is if whoever the owner of this property is, they reached out to the local city and said, "Hey, Maple Heights, I'm looking to purchase this home. I need a point of sale inspection," or POS for short. The inspector will come out. The inspector will say, "Oh, okay, yeah, this home passed." Or the inspector would say, "Hey, this home has failed." And they'll give a list of failed items. So the failed items can be something as small as a battery missing in a smoke detector to something as severe as, "Hey, you have to build a new garage," or "You have to build a new driveway. You have to secure water lines," or something like that, right? It can range from a wide cost. It can be low cost to very high cost. So when you see a home that has heights in it, automatically it's going to be a POS that will be attached. It's either going to be passing POS or you're going to be assuming the POS. Now, I've been investing long enough to know in this area that if someone passed POS, they would put it in the description because that would be a huge selling point. You can say, "Hey, my home is POS compliant." So POS compliant means I can buy the loan. I don't have to worry about working with the city and assuming these violations. It's free and clear. So the fact that it doesn't have POS compliant in the description tells me there's probably going to be some violations. Honestly, if I was actively buying right now, this would be one for sure. I would say, let me reach out, find out what the POS report looks like. If the POS report looks like something that I can get done within 5,000, maybe $10,000 tops, it would be something that I would consider to buy the house because you can do a few things. You can say, "Hey, Mr. Seller, I know you want to sell this house. I'm very interested. For me to get these inspections done, it's going to cost me $10,000. Let's do this. The house is 76.5. Let's go ahead and do no closing costs, and I'll buy the house from you for 24,000, 74,000, right? So you can say that because it's like you can take $2,500 off of the purchase price. So that gets it from 76.5 to 74,000. Then the remaining amount, the closing costs, which would have been a few points on your mortgage, probably would have been a few, maybe, a few $1,000s. You say you cover the closing costs. It's almost like cumulatively they're meeting you halfway on the POS inspection. And considering the housing market, or they might say, "Yeah, I'll jump on that." I've never purchased a home in Cleveland that I paid closing costs on. Always make sure I get the closing costs because these are older homes and chances are it's going to be something that needs to be repaired. And there's also a lot of out of state investors who don't care for their properties the way we do. So they have a lot of deferred maintenance and you have to go in there and clean it up and make sure that the structure of the home is intact. Yeah. So I'm happy I walked through this with you. If I was really actively looking for a home right now, I think this is what I would go for. I would go for this one. I would reach out to my agent. I would ask for the POS inspection. And if it looked pretty good, I'll say 5 to 10,000 max, but preferably 5,000 or less. I would put an offer in for 74,000 or less. I'll talk to my agent to make sure 74,000 or less and with no closing costs. And I would be locked and loaded. And this would be your house. So, and before I just stop the recording here, I did want to point out one resource because I kept saying about the neighborhood. So if you go to biggerpockets.com, pockets.com, landlords.com. And if you're not familiar with Bigger Pockets, I really don't know how you couldn't be. What might happen if you go to Bigger Pockets, it's the biggest networking place to go for real estate investors. Let me remember how I got there. So I think it was forums. Okay. Oh, they made some updates. Okay. So you go to forums and then Cleveland neighborhood. It's been there for years. So as you can see, it comes up, the link to the original article, and this is it. And this thing is so accurate. It's not even funny. It's pretty accurate. So if you were to pull this up on your phone, it does like an overlay into your Google Maps on your phone so that once you click on it and then you can put an address, a Cleveland address in there, it'll actually show you where the address falls within this map. So it's pretty cool. But the area that I was suggesting, that 44128 137, it's over here. So it's neighboring what they consider to be the red. And you just have to see it for yourself. Great people live there, but there are some areas that really has been neglected. So the red is no depiction of the people. It's just the condition of the neighborhood. A lot of vacant homes, a lot of just really bad infrastructure, vacant factories and things of that nature. So it's an eyesore. So this area right here is where I like to invest because you really are surrounded around a lot of history, a lot of character in the homes in that area, but also at the same time, you can get them at a reasonable price. The west side is the more affluent side. I, I think more people are going over there at this point in time. I feel like the ROI is not the same for investing on this side. The taxes are lower, but the homes are very different. They're ticky tack. I like the homes that have character with it, and we've grown to really know that area pretty well. You have to be careful. So, going back to what I had noted earlier, you might have, if you zoom in here, it's color coded. So, green is like your top of the line. That's your A class, A grade neighborhood. You can see this is green and it's neighboring the F. So, again, you have to be very careful. And I'm sure it's like this in other markets to where someone's thinking they're buying something in the green. It might have the same zip code, it might have the same city name, but what a difference a street can make. And it's really like that in Cleveland. If you have questions about certain neighborhoods or something like that, feel free to hit me up on my website, mostofthementor.com, or drop something in the chat. But just really great. I wanted to show you guys exactly what my thought process is and how you should approach your search for finding a property. And I hope that this was really insightful for you, and looking forward to everybody starting their investment journey. And if you have any questions, just let me know. So learn, grow, prepare for it.